let's listen to Nadezhda and let's just hear her story, how she started to write novels and what are her other works, what is her background, what else she does or she did previously.
Hi everyone. It's my pleasure to see you today. Can you hear me? Is it okay?
Yes.
So at the moment I'm in Russia. So I lived in America for 7.5 years, and I will keep living there. But for 2 months we are in St. Petersburg now with my family. I have my son sitting next to me. Well, his name is Miroslav. If I have any sometimes difficulties to express myself, maybe he will help me. So he's my assistant, but I hope I can do that. So my Russian name is Nadежда Серебренникова, and Nadezhda means hope, and the half of my last name, Serebro, means silver. And as I know, some Americans have difficulties with pronunciation of my name. That's why I go by Hope Silver, which is easier to pronounce in America. My background is, I was a journalist. I was a freelancer journalist since 2003. And I worked in a very big newspaper in St. Petersburg since 2009, I think, for several years. And then one of my colleagues who was a journalist too, and he inspired me to be, he told me, you can write more than just everyday articles for the newspaper. So I feel you can be something more than just a journalist. So he inspired me to write a book. And so I started thinking of that, and about like in a year, almost in my dream, like to Mendeleev, you know, like his chemical table came to him in his dream. In my dream, I came up with the idea to write a story and tell this story by this interesting angle, like the eyes of the invisible character, which is the soul of the future boy. And the novel, which all of you read, and we're going to talk about this novel. So in Russian, it is called Родиться вопреки, which is like translated into English as born against all odds. I know what else I can talk about myself. I'm married. I have 2 kids. They are 18 and 16 years old, boy and girl. We all lived in Berkeley, California, and now we are moving to Los Angeles. Yeah, that's pretty much about myself.
Well, you just gave me a hint that somehow the birth of your son inspired you to write the book, or there is some story about that.
Yeah, I can answer the question about the time framing. Yeah, he inspired me to write a book, and the time framing is about at the end of 90s and beginning of like 2003. It's based on some real events. Like the real events inspired me because I was like the main character based on myself, like not totally, but some of the events. Yes. It's like let me tell
so you. Lera is you, basically.
Not just me, but like something. Yes. Of course, many writers use their friends' stories and their personal stories to write something. It's not a secret to anyone.
I don't know if it's a secret yet, but you told me about your plans to have a film based on your book, an adaptation of your story.
Yeah. Now we're in conversation with some people from the movie industry about making a movie based on this novel. I think it can be something interesting to watch.
Well, now maybe we will move to the questions which were prepared by my students, and maybe we'll start with from the end. The questions were written by Judy, and since belief in angels predates the Christian era with literature and religious work, did you rely on any sources building the character of Elias?
haven't read much about angels before I came up with this character, but so I think this is a totally human character. I think it's more than like human which accidentally became an angel than angel who accidentally became a human.
And maybe, so it is obvious, well, from your answer, I think it is clear why instead of a real fall, your angel is going to become a human, because he already is almost human in his behavior and his traits.
Yeah, he didn't go to hell as a full angel. Like, our world is not paradise either, right?
Why do women get pregnant so easily? Well, I mean, without giving it a proper thought. And yet the male characters seem to be unwilling to have a child. And from their mind, it's just another burden.
I don't think it's just women's decision to get pregnant. They just got pregnant, and then this thing happened not in the way they wanted.
Why are all other male characters practically bastards?
Yeah, in this case, it's like art imitates life. And sometimes, I don't think all men are bastards, but in these stories, some of them are. Yeah, but not all of them in the novel, right? I think Vladimir was good and Oleg was not bad at the end.
Let's say what you think, what you liked about the novel, because
I would like to hear your feedback, even if it's like you can criticize me. I will accept it.
I especially liked the idea that these souls are choosing their mother. I thought that was handled in a very mystical, fantastical way, which is not something that religiously I was ever aware of. So this is a fantasy. And I thought the way that Peace was characterized, I love that little child, even before when he was just an angel, because he embodied everything that was good and wonderful and peaceful. So he has an apt name. And I guess the way the angels were portrayed and characterized was one of my favorite parts of the book.
Good. Well, Vernice or Martin or both?
Martin's turn. Well, I don't usually read books that would be considered fantasy books, but I got into it, and I did at the end, I kind of liked it. I mean, it's not like, honestly, if I were looking at books, it wouldn't be one that I would choose to read. Mm-hmm. But I did enjoy reading it. I found it pretty.
So I'm going to pass.
You're breaking. The sound is breaking.
I also found the angels very interesting, and tried to think who I would pick for a parent if I had that option, and it seems much more difficult than you might think. It was probably good. I just got the parents I did. But I found the book to be humorous, and yet for me, it was thought-provoking. It made me think about things I wouldn't have thought about otherwise. And so I really appreciated that. Thank you.
I found the comparison or the switching back and forth between very realistic stories and reactions and the fantasy to be really great fun. And using the word fun is not right, because I seem to remember when Olga said we were going to take on your book, I think she said that it was lighter or humorous.
I did.
Correct me if I'm wrong. And I didn't find it humorous. I found it thought-provoking. Did you intend it to be humorous?
Humor in the book,
Yes,
definitely.
there is, yeah.
Maybe it's something.
Yes.
In Russian, it's more humorous, maybe. It was not easy to translate all these, play of words, because something was lost when it was translated. Yeah, but I know Russian people who read the book, they said they laughed and they cried. It's just like sometimes all together. There is some humor, but maybe it's kind of a little bit difficult for me to appreciate. Like, my English is not perfectly here. So maybe something was in Russian version, but there is not so much in English. I don't know. Some things are very hard to translate.
I enjoyed the book, and as a reflection and a refraction, as we discussed it, of the contemporary society or almost contemporary society in Russia compared to where women today might find themselves in the United States. And the portraits of the people seem so right on and so realistic. For example, this is a novel written from a woman's point of view. We don't necessarily get a lot of those here. There are more than there used to be. But that was refreshing to me. So maybe we women look at some of the guys in that novel as, really terrible people. Well, we're not looking at it from the guy's point of view. Okay, so then I'm asking myself, how would it be different here? Would it be different here? And I'm thinking, well, maybe some of these things that happen are more, and I'm not even sure, but less random and more societally ingrained or acceptable these days. And I'm looking at, grandchildren and thinking, swipe right, swipe left. This is how it works. Friends with benefits. There's no surprise. Everybody accepts it. People who want to have children, but nobody feels constrained to have children. And I'm thinking, how is that different from Lyra? And I recognize that Lyra might be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. Things may have changed since Lyra went through what she went through. So it's refractions and reflections of contemporary life, and getting to pick Olga's brain is like, would it be like this in Russia? Or getting to pick your brain a little bit. Mm-hmm. My pleasure in the book.
I like the depiction of the angels and the unborn souls in terms of this big bureaucracy that was supposed to manage people, but it was a flawed bureaucracy, like all big bureaucracies. And it was interesting too, the idea of, and one of the things that we discussed was fate versus free will. It seemed like the bureaucracy was supposed to manage everybody's fate, and yet many things were just turned over to however the humans wanted to do things. And so it was like, yeah, we're supposed to be in charge, but we really aren't, angel-wise. And I thought it was interesting too, the sort of the lack of the characters thinking about consequences when they made decisions that they made. Lyra's decision to get involved with a married man to begin with, or then the decision later on when she decides that she's going to try and flirt with Klimt to get him away from his way. And then you're thinking, well, what do they think is going to be the outcome of this? Is Klimt going to just ditch his wife and go for Lyra, or is Klimt going to say, well, I can have 2 for the price of 1? Or that was kind of interesting, I thought.
Nierdavica. That pronunciation. One of the things that we talked about was the difference between Russian society and American society in terms of the individual decisions. And, Michael just touched on this now. And Jackie was talking about the tone earlier that has a lighthearted, a fantastical tone. So these are individual decisions that are very difficult and soulful. And then government or the state, the imposition of the state. That's not part of your novel. So having lived in Russia and then living in the United States, what do you think about the difference between the society which forbids or makes difficult or makes even violent these kind of individual decisions, so that the person is not only caught up, the character is not only caught up in their own personal situation, but also then has to do it clandestinely. I'd really be interested to know what you see being in America and seeing this the situation here.
Okay, maybe we will give a chance, Nadezhda, to answer the question, and then we'll move to Judy. How the situation is different in America and in the United States, since you know both countries. In terms of social judgment, maybe people are affected by the public opinion.
Okay.
Or
You want to answer? Maybe my son wants to answer. No, I can say something, but you can add something, right? No? About social judgment, I think, so my opinion, that maybe social judgment is more common in Russia, I think. Because in America, my 7.5 years in America showed me like the Americans respect people's privacy. They don't ask so many personal questions. They don't intrude in your personal life so easily. And I respect this, and I like it in an American society. Because in Russia, they can easily ask like very questions you don't want to hear. Like this, like, for example, I don't know, when you finally get married, when you like something like, you know, something like this, or like very personal information. In America, people respect this.
my example was that, on the contrary, women in America are talking much more eagerly. And just another example, I gave one example to the group about a woman who was pregnant, and her supervisor asked her whether it's going to be a boy or a girl, and she immediately said, well, of course it's a boy, and they have 2 more embryos frozen. And then another experience from my husband, he was just walking around with a real estate agent, and she told him everything about her breast cancer and how much was removed and so on. So I think women are, even without being asked, are talking more about their absolutely intimate and private life. I may be wrong, but these are observations which I had. And I don't know about, well, Anel, did you mean something else when you asked the question?
I think it was the difference between individual decisions and individual discomfort or turmoil and state interference. That's what I think our group had been talking about. Of course, we had that discussion last Friday after a Supreme Court decision here in America. So that's why you have a serious topic, and there is a fantastical and lighthearted tone that carries us through a serious topic. But there's not the state interference in your book that there is in the United States. So that's what I was wondering. I was wondering about your read on that, Nadezhda. What do you see for that? Where and maybe even it would be your perceptions having written the book, having published the book. Just curious.
Yeah, because we know that in the United States, every state determines its policy, even regarding abortion. And for many, it's for conservatives at least, it is kind of one of the subjects which they use during the election campaign.
Mm-hmm.
well, I think it's done intentionally. It's like a card they are playing. So is it different in Russia? The state doesn't seem to interfere with this. I think abortions are allowed officially in Russia, and they were allowed in the, well, the policy changed, but at least now they are not forbidden as they are in America in some of the states. And the state, the government doesn't use this subject as a card to play.
Actually, any woman in Russia, if she wants to do that, she just go and does that. But it doesn't mean like society approve it. Some people totally against it. And if you go to the doctor, the gynecologist, they have this a lot of information on the wall, like why it's not good. And so you can choose for yourself. But if you do it, it's not against the law. And so I know in some states it's just restricted, it's just against the law, right? Because I didn't know this about it.
Well, technically, right at the very moment, right now, it's constitutionally guaranteed nationally. There's a little snafu down in Texas. Who knows where else? But right now, until further notice, it is a constitutionally guaranteed right nationally that a woman get an abortion. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Thank you. Maybe tomorrow it will be different, but as of today, you may not be able to find anyone to do it for you, but it is your constitutional right to have one.
In Texas.
Even in Texas.
Just I want to say that this novel is not like anti-abortional novel. The abortion here is just like a circumstance for this soul to overcome. That's why it is titled Born Against All Odds. I see this novel as the main topic of this novel is pursuing dreams, is just like be your own masters, like free choice. So there are some rules, but it's not necessary to follow them if you follow your heart. If you love this woman, be with her. That's the main words from Elias, like I call it Elias in Russian. It's an abortion is just something very sad, but it's not the main topic. I see it as like, it's magical realism genre. I don't think it's like 100% fantasy. There are no dragons, there are no elves stuff. It's just a magical realism, like a way to tell the real human story. And I know some kids, they tell stories which they can't know. It's just like something what happened before they were conceived. It's just, how could they know? But they know. So it's the real stories. So I think
we gathered that also. We added the polemics because it was just a flashpoint and still is in this country. So, but I gathered that you were not writing a political diatribe or an apology or an argument against abortion. Born Against All Odds suggests, as you say, you're with peace all the way. You can't wait till he actually gets born. So that's pro-life in a large sense.
Another important message in my novel is that our kids are coming from above, and people should consider it when they make important decisions. Not just women, but men too. And some people regret they haven't read Born Against All Odds before they have done Irreversible.
Okay, my question's related to angels and souls. What caused you to bring in that construct into a book? What was your thought process and maybe origins or beliefs that caused you to talk about souls and angels, something that is not really used in American literature very much?
This is very hard to explain. I don't know why. It's just how is it? It's just dawned on me, and just right there is a question, and I just decided to write about a soul, and then I just came up with this. I can't explain. Sometimes when I was writing, when I was in the process, I just felt that some something just goes through me just from above, and I just can't explain some things. I just couldn't stop reading, and I lived in this world. I just imagined these souls, I imagined these angels, and it's just unexplainable. I'm sorry. It just was. Maybe I was the one who who was chosen by something or someone to write about it. That's it.
It was very interesting to read. It was a light read, which was good because many books have been more difficult, in the past in particular. So it was nice reading a contemporary book about a somewhat light subject. Well, actually a difficult subject made light, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, because sometimes our discussions were really heated, because the topic itself of abortion is quite controversial. Abortion in the book seemed to be casual and everyday matter. So how has the position of your generation, and maybe even previous generation, and maybe even next generation, your children, how has it changed?
No, I can just say about my generation, for example, my mother generation, that she told me, like, in Russia, right? She told me not good things about her generation, that abortions was without anesthesia, and they were just like one by one, because I don't know why people did that. Maybe they don't have normal contraceptive things or something, but it was like every day, like casual life. In my generation, it was some tragedy for some girls, like in a novel. I don't know about young people now, but I hope that it's just, as I know, I just read statistics. After I read your questions, I started reading statistics about abortions in Russia. As I know, like the numbers of abortion getting lower every year. So yeah, and we lived in Berkeley. I don't know, we can just talk about contraception if we talk about abortions. So in Berkeley High, every student can come and take condoms, like as many as they want, just without any problems, and just bring them, I don't know, almost somewhere else. And
yeah, many students asked me about contraception in Russia. I think my answer was correct, that now it is available.
it is available, but it's not available at schools. But they can go to, maybe some of them are just shy to go and buy them in pharmacies, but in Berkeley High, and in America, it's very good. They have these classes. They tell kids what can happen if you don't do some things, and they even taught them how to use them. It's just, for Russian students, it's just, like miracle. Wow, they don't do it in Russian schools, and maybe it's not right. They should, because the young people have to know, because I don't know, now they start earlier. I hope they're gonna be smarter than us. Gonna learn from other people's mistakes, not from their own.
In Russia, it seems abortion is a choice that is easily available. There is no stigma on women who chose abortion. In America, it is socially and legally restricted. Does this fact show the contrast between the United States and Russia in individual choice and social and legal prohibition?
It's hard for me to compare a Russian and American situation, because I don't talk much about this with the American women. They didn't share the experience with me. Yeah, but it's easily available, but it doesn't mean people go and do that every day.
Part of the problem in the United States is it's become a huge political issue.
Russian government just support people who give birth to more and more kids. They give money, like we have a program for young families. They give money for the they started giving money for the second child. Now they give more money for the third child. And even now they started giving money for the first child. So they just try to support people who want to do that. It's not, they don't restrict abortions, but they support people to give birth. Maybe it's a better idea, right?
Yeah, I agree. It is much more effective. Well,
Yeah.
let's think about the United States, and I don't think you will be pleased with that. But well, I'm about to. Well, I think 8 weeks or 12 weeks is time then a woman can have after having a baby. In Russia, it is a year, and then a woman can stay at home up until the child is 3 years old without losing her job.
Yes,
So,
yes. When Russian women found out from me or from other sources about like women in America can spend with the child like legally 6 weeks, like what? Because yeah, we can save the job for 3 years, maybe without payment, like salaries, of course, without payments, but you can come back to your job and just start it, which is very good. And you can the main thing, you can be with your own baby for a long time, because I think it's terrible to started find a nanny, like looking for a nanny when you're still pregnant. How? It's just it's a miracle. It's a magical time when you can be with your own baby at least for a year, because first year is so important that you see like a baby growing. And yeah, some things are good in Russia, some things are good in America, but the baby thing, it's not easy decision to leave your 6 weeks child and go to work. It's normal there because people don't know how to can be different, but when you know how, but it's weird for me.
yeah, so maybe it's better not to forbid abortion, but encourage
Yes.
the birth rate.
Yeah, it would be a better decision.
Well, one of the considerations that an American mother-to-be has to take into account is, after the baby is born, how am I going to take care of it? And I quit my job to take care of my granddaughter when she was born, because my daughter, her mother, is a teacher, and affordable infant care was just not available. There's no way she could have afforded to pay somebody to care for a newborn baby. And that's something that seems to get forgotten in this whole abortion discussion in America, because we don't have universal childcare policies. We don't have universal leave for a parent once the child is born. Depending upon where you work, you may not get paid for 6 weeks while you're on maternity leave. You may have your job when you come back, but hello, how are you supposed to survive? And so these are things that expectant mothers, especially single expectant mothers, have to take into consideration. And many times I think the decision to go forward with an abortion is based on economic need. I can't do this, you know?
Yeah. I was a single mother for 3 years, and the thing which saved me was a daycare, because it's so cheap in Russia, and in America it's $1,000 or more. It's just unbelievable. The price is unbelievable. Yeah, of course the better salaries, but I even took a picture yesterday. I visited the principal of the daycare. We're still friends, and the price is like $10 per month. Yeah. In some of them maybe 20, but yeah, and if you have a low income, it's even less. It's gonna be $5. It's just, and they feed kids there. They feed like a warm, like a soup, and the second course, everything. And there in daycare, you have to, like on Thursdays, I know my friend brought the food like a sandwich with her. They just eat something and drink something. And here just full meal, hot breakfast, hot lunch.
In Russia, is there more emphasis on the family as a unit that is to be nurtured and supported? Because I don't think we see that here in this country.
We certainly don't see any support, as you mentioned, Rose, as you mentioned, Barbara, to do with having children and staying in the workforce or staying competitive professionally or being there's no support for having children, either in terms of grants encouraging people to have babies, or any support when they do or as they do. And the pandemic has lighted up the fact that when the kids are home doing school from home, mama's with them, not dad. So, you know, I don't know if that's true or not. It strikes me that some of these things, and I'm wondering if it can be true, are not leftover, but when the Soviet Union was in effect, women had certain rights and attitudes about women changed, and they were going to work, and there was support for families in some ways that seemed to have carried over, like the expectation that you would have some time to bond with your kid after having a baby, and that there would be some payments for being able to support the child. Whereas here the attitude was, hey, girl, if you want to be competitive in the marketplace, you have to act like a man. Mm-hmm. You have to not get pregnant. You have to not, hold this corporation back in any way. Period. End of report. Mm-hmm. So I don't know whether, I think hangover is the wrong word, because it must have been always in the society. But women advanced in the Soviet era, did they not, Olga? And their position was guaranteed. More freedoms came about during that period of time for women?
Yeah, sure. And women started to get education, I mean, at the university earlier than I think they started in the United States. And we saw that from our meeting with the doctor, who showed his picture with when the girls and boys were about 50% in his medical school. Mm-hmm. And Judy told us, well, he probably is a bit younger than Judy, not to be insulting, but Judy, I think, told us that there were only 5 girls and 65 students in her.
Yeah. It's changed now. In the United States, I think it's pretty 50-50, but at my time, it was 5 girls and 70 men in the medical school class. But having run a health department of 250 employees, I have to say that it would be very difficult to hold certain positions open for somebody to stay out for 1 whole year. What would you do? You would have to put somebody in that position, and then how would you have them step backwards when that person wants to come back and fill that top position? For businesses, it would be, I can understand the difficulty of being able, of allowing somebody to have an entire year off, even though I think as a pediatrician background, it was a great idea. For the company itself, it would be very disruptive to hold a position open. I actually had that with some of my military people who would go off, and I had to keep positions open for them and yet still fill that use within the health department. And it was very difficult to do that. So that's the other side of the coin.
Also, what I wanted to say is that, well, you can see that our country is very backward in supporting women who are having children. But some of the larger corporations now have daycare centers within their buildings that the children could go to, the mother could work, she could still go and nurse.
I don't think too many of them have that, though. Some do, some of the bigger corporations. But
about Judy's comment, I think I have an answer. I think in Russia, the employer can openly hire somebody for just that period of time when the woman is using her maternity leave. And while Nadezhda is nodding, so that means I'm right. And it's not a secret. Well, if you need a teacher, for example, at school, you will hire someone and you will have a contract with her just for 1 year. And there will be people who would be willing to join this, to sign this contract.
And usually they find another position for this person when the person from the after from maternity leave is coming back, like, right? Sometimes they don't fire this person, they just find another position. I may ask, if I have like a few minutes to ask another question. Could you imagine similar situation or similar stories in America? I'm thinking about the future movie, and I think could it happen in America, like similar stories? Could the same characters like live in New York with, like, for example, John and Mary, and something similar happened to them, or in America it's just not possible? I appreciate your opinion about it.
I think so, because the whole idea isn't rooted in reality to begin.
I think it could happen. I think we could have a story. Absolutely.
And I was thinking the communal living might be a problem, but I have a niece who lived in a communal apartment in New York where people climbed over her to get past her room to go to their bed, and the bathtub was in the kitchen. So I think it would work.
Oh, good, thank you. Yeah, interesting. So we don't need to like push movie people go to Russia and make a movie there. We can do it in America, right?
Well, I think it will be more relatable for American viewers if it is set in America, but I'm not sure about the characters. Will it be politically correct to make all men bastards or mean?
You can make them better. It's like according to this future script, right?
You know, that's what I found a problem in the book, that the characters were either good or bad, and not everybody's good and not everybody's bad. I mean, Lara seemed to be a perfect character that everybody would love. She was lively and wonderful, and Klim was so horrible, we couldn't find one good thing about him. So I think that's a little bit of a problem.
What do you think of Vladimir? Is he bad or good?
Vlad?
Right.
I think he was a very good person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a good person. He was loving, and they fell in love, but I mean, she fell in love, and she, you know, Olga, she was married. So that relationship.
In terms of your characters, it's very interesting because really the characters with the most developed arcs are the two souls, are Ilias and Peace. And they're not women, they're men, but they get to develop, they get to change across the novel. So if you do shortchange the other men, you give your strongest characterization to those two. That's a very interesting kind of flip-flop from an initial take on character to maybe a more nuanced one. Kind of settles in later, doesn't it? That those are your two main ones.
So what is your recommendation, Anel?
Recommendation for
the film, for the book adaptation.
For the book.
You know what I cast?
You would like to choose the actors?
Not at all. No way. Filmmaker, that's up to Nadezhda. I think could it work? Of course it could work. And I was kind of playing in my mind, you know, how might two movies be? How might a movie in the United States be? And then how might a movie from your original novel be in Russia? In Russia, that would that might be a very interesting dialogue almost between these two. You know, you hang two pieces of art next to each other and they kind of talk to each other. Well, these would be two movies made in two different places from what might be really two different novels, you know, talking about how you originally published it in Russia with some of the humor in it, some of the, again, a very interesting kind of tone, and then for an American audience. And remember, the director's going to change things anyway. The scriptwriter's going to change things anyway. So you got to be on set there, Nadezhda. You got to say, no, it has to go this way.
I know. I'm ready for that.
The question about the time of the book, the setting. So has the situation changed compared to the 90s? American people today are more focused on their careers. What about Russian young people? Are they, including, well, girls in particular and women, are they focused on their career most, or still the family is the center of their attention and center of their dreams?
Well, I wouldn't tell about everyone. It depends on the person. Some of them focus on the career, some of them focus on family. You know, the novel was written in 2012. And the time framing, like I told you, is like based on partly on my own life. So the baby was born in 2003, when the anniversary of St. Petersburg happened, like 300 years old of St. Petersburg. And so what now? I think now young people more also focus on the career. Some of them want to move out from Russia. They focus on learning English, you know, I know. And it also depends on the city. If you're talking about Russia, like, you know, in big cities, people focus on the career more than in small cities. I was born in Siberia, in a small city, and my friends and my classmates there, they got babies when they were 18, 19, like very early. I moved to St. Petersburg and I lived there, so I did it later because I graduated from the university like first, and then I got a family, and I don't know, it depends.
What is the role of fate in the novel? I think we talked a little about it, and Mike was particularly interested in this question. So do we have to infer from your book that everything is predetermined, or well, still something depends on a will or on a choice of a person?
I think fate plays a big role in the novel. So Lera and her son were meant to be together. There is a small episode based on my friend's story when she texted to the random number. It was a total true story. And this way she met her husband. Remember Masha's story when she sent some text to the random number? It happened, and it's totally true. I think it's a lot of fate moments.
Well, but maybe it also happened due to the fact that Peace was rebellious, and he wanted to be with Lera, and that was according to Elias' words. Just if you want something, if you love a woman, just follow her, pursue her.
It's just my, you know, a week ago I had a meeting with my readers in the Lermontov Library in St. Petersburg. It's a very interesting place, and I printed this dream big, like on a big paper, dream big, and I talked about, like, I presented another book. I have a flash fiction story collection about inanimate objects, like they can dream, think, feel something like human beings, and I inspired people to dream. It's also about dreaming and pursuing a dream, which, like, sometimes you think it's never gonna happen, but just believe in it and think of it like it's just a question of time, and it will happen. It's just like based on my own experience too. Even my children books about it, just pursuing a dream. I just theme, my line.
Yeah, well, maybe just you say a few words about your other books
Okay,
because
I even
some of
have
them
the-
are translated.
Okay, so this one is not translated. It's a sequel of this novel. In Russian, it's called "Дети не помеха," which like word by word, it's like kids are not a problem. It's about how to be a single mom. And how a single mom can find her own happiness no matter what. And this is the book. It's very interesting. It's for all ages. Kids like it, and adults, and it's a flash fiction. Oh, it's actually now it's on Amazon and this. So it's a Curious Things. It's about things, but I'm going to make a different edition. It's just every story, just one page, and illustration. One page illustrations. So it's all about
Well, maybe your son can read one example.
The sneakers realized their dream was unachievable. That doesn't happen. It's just dumb. The house slippers chuckled when hearing the sneakers' thoughts. Shoes don't get to observe life from above. Those born to walk are not meant to fly, they continued silently. The sneakers sighed and continued to fantasize. And when they suddenly found themselves hanging by their laces from the telephone line, for a long time they could not believe it was for real. But that just doesn't happen, the slippers repeated sternly, when they found out about it from the new sneakers, who had just witnessed their owner recklessly toss the old pair into the air. And so the old sneakers swung above the ground, defying all the laws of footwear and attracting the amazed gazes of the passersby who rarely looked at the sky.
Thank you. So it's kind of philosophical. Well, there was a question about the genre. Why did you choose the genre of fantasy, and whether somebody inspired you to write in this genre, and what authors inspired you in general?
So I didn't choose fantasy genre. It was just a way to tell the story, and it became a magical realism genre. So I don't feel this novel as a fantasy genre, but it is fantasy. They just in category fantasy, but the smaller is magical realism. I wouldn't say someone inspired me. No, I didn't. I haven't read anything like this before, so it just I don't know. Maybe I'm bragging, but I think this kind of unique. And I can just say about authors. I really liked the novel when I was a child. I read a lot, and my favorite writers was Margaret Mitchell and Gone with the Wind. I really liked to read it when I was younger, and I went to her museum in Atlanta. So it's just she was a journalist also, and it was only a novel she wrote in her life, but it is big. It just I admire her, and Charlotte Bronte, Bronte, Jane Eyre, also, all this, just the mystery of the relationship, the Mr. Rochester and Jane. It was a romantic story. When she or he, I forgot who, she heard the voices of each other on distance. It's just, oh my God. When I was a child, I was all into this novel. Yeah, I think maybe somehow they inspired me when I was young, started writing myself.
Well, because it was my question, I probably would like to read it. It's about the words of Elias, who said, happiness is knowing that you are your own master. And what do you think? Well, what was your intention in the words, being your own master? Is it synonymous to being free? Is it a synonym of a free choice, of making a free choice?
Yeah, I really like this question.
Well, thank you.
Because it's my favorite. It's my favorite paragraph in the book, because it's just like a main words. So be your own master. It's about free choice. It's about breaking rules sometimes. There's stupid rules sometimes. Just I just, as I said, follow your heart, follow your dream. Or if someone decided you can't do that, and what? Just go for it. And
So it's better to do something and then regret about instead
Yes.
of not do something and then regret
And
about
regret
not
about
doing.
it. At least you know what happened after you did something. Then it's just like regret about not doing something. It's just like, well, I'm always doing something, even I regret about it. It's just like this type of person can't stop doing something.
Yeah, so that's the statement which obviously expresses your thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, then we have quite a long discussion, but maybe somebody still has questions which are left unanswered.
I would like to say that I thoroughly enjoyed listening to Hope. I mean, it totally changed my perspective and gave me a feeling for the process of what you were thinking to write this book. And it was wonderful to meet you. And I'm so thrilled that you were able to come.
Thank you, my pleasure.
I have a question about Klim. To me, a loose end is why he didn't have an angel and why he never got one after that. Did you just not want to talk about that when you wrote the book, or?
I think he was the main bastard in the book, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It seemed like he needed an angel more than anybody else, somebody to help him rein in some of that anger.
He was the one, you know, I had a question in my list, the characters, are they completely fictional or inspired by real people? He was one of the real people. I don't know if unfortunately, this bastard exists. He still exists. In the book, I killed him, you know. You know, there was a phrase in the internet, so don't annoy the writer. She can put you in the book and kill you.
So that might be an example of where it was a fantasy fulfilled.
Yeah. I really appreciate your answers to my questions, and yeah, thank you very much.
We want to wish you good luck with your movie, well, with the movie based on your novel, and we will be looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, please let Olga know if it comes to be a reality and she can share it with us.
Yeah. I hope you may, so you could see it in the movie theaters. Yeah, but we need to send the thoughts to the universe so the dreams will come true, right?
Yeah. I really enjoyed the book. See you all soon, hopefully in the fall.